We have all felt it. That hollow ache in the center of the chest, a quiet echo in the chambers of the mind. It's the ghost of a past self, visiting the present to ask a single, tormenting question. What if? What if you had taken that job? What if you had said, "I love you" when the moment was ripe? What if you had been kinder, studied harder, saved more, or spoken up when your silence felt like a betrayal? This is the sting of regret. It is perhaps the most human of all our negative emotions, a universal tax on the experience of having lived. Our modern culture, in its relentless pursuit of optimization and positivity, has declared war on this feeling. We are sold a simple, seductive mantra, one you might find tattooed on a wrist or emblazoned on a motivational poster: no regrets. This philosophy suggests that a life well lived is a life that never looks back, a straight, unwavering line into the future. It frames regret as a failure, a sign of weakness, a poison we willingly drink. But this advice, as comforting as it may seem, is built on a profound psychological misunderstanding. It asks us to amputate a part of our own mental machinery, a part that, when understood correctly, is not a flaw in our design, but one of its most essential and sophisticated features. To live without regret is to live without reflection. And to live without reflection is to condemn oneself to repeating the same mistakes endlessly. Today, we will journey into the heart of this misunderstood emotion. We will deconstruct the myth of no regrets and reveal the hidden wisdom it contains. We will learn that the goal is not to eradicate regret, but to learn how to wield it. For within its painful sting lies the blueprint for a better future, and the key to becoming a wiser version of ourselves. Before we can appreciate the wisdom of regret, we must first confront its dark twin, its unproductive and corrosive counterpart. This is the state where most of us get stuck, the state that gives regret its terrible name. Psychologists call it rumination. Rumination is the mind caught in a recursive loop, a broken record playing the same painful chord over and over. It is not reflection, it is a mental prison. When we ruminate, we don't just remember a mistake, we relive it with the full force of its original shame and pain. We become the prosecutor, the judge, and the jury in a trial where we are always found guilty. The ruminating mind is not looking for a lesson. It is looking for an escape that doesn't exist, a way to change the past. The internal monologue sounds like this: "I can't believe I did that. I'm such an idiot. Everyone must think I'm a fool. If only I hadn't said that, everything would be different." Notice the pattern. It is circular, self-flagellating, and offers no path forward. It is, as the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard might describe it, a form of shut-upness, a state of being closed off to the future because you are locked in a battle with a past that has already won. This is the experience that the no regrets philosophy is rightly trying to help us escape. But by telling us to simply get over it, it offers no tools, no understanding. It's like telling someone stuck in quicksand to simply stop struggling. The struggle is the instinct. To escape, you need a different strategy altogether. The first step in that strategy is to understand that the pain you are feeling is not the problem. The story you are telling yourself about that pain is the problem. Rumination is regret without purpose. Functional regret, on the other hand, is regret with a mission. And its mission is to ensure you never have to feel this specific pain for this specific reason ever again. So what is this functional regret? It is the mind's ability to perform one of its most dazzling tricks, counterfactual thinking. This is the uniquely human capacity to imagine realities that did not occur. It is the engine of all creativity, all innovation, and all personal growth. When you experience a pang of regret, your brain is not simply replaying a memory. It is running a complex simulation. It is taking a past event and asking, what if one variable had been different? If only I had left for the airport 15 minutes earlier, is not just a lament, it is a cognitive analysis identifying a specific point of failure. Your brain has just run a simulation and concluded that a 15-minute adjustment would have resulted in a vastly superior outcome. The pain you feel is the emotional signature of that discovery. It is a biological memo to your future self, written with the potent ink of negative emotion, that says, pay attention. Do not repeat this variable error. The writer and researcher Daniel H. Pink spent years collecting and analyzing thousands of regrets from people all over the world for his book, The Power of Regret. He discovered that far from being a random collection of personal failures, our regrets are stunningly consistent. They fall into 4 core categories, and each category reveals something profound about what we, as humans, universally value. Understanding these 4 regrets is like finding a map to the human heart. The first are foundation regrets. These are the if-onlys about stability and foresight. If only I had saved more money. If only I had taken better care of my health. If only I had worked harder in school. These regrets arise from our failure to be responsible and conscientious. The pain they cause is a direct signal of our deep, fundamental need for stability. We are creatures who need a solid foundation from which to operate, and these regrets are the mind's painful reminder of the times we neglected to build one. The second, and perhaps most common, are boldness regrets. These are the regrets of the chances we didn't take. The business we didn't start, the trip we didn't take, the person we were too afraid to ask out. It is the regret of the door unopened. As Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, famously articulated with his regret minimization framework, when he is old, he knows he will not regret his failures, but he will deeply regret the things he did not even try. This echoes the sentiment of the writer Lewis Carroll, who noted, in the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take. Boldness regrets are a testament to our innate desire for growth, experience, and expansion. They are the voice of our potential, lamenting the times we chose fear over opportunity. The third are moral regrets. These cut deeper. This is the regret of violating our own conscience. If only I hadn't cheated. If only I hadn't lied. If only I had stood up for that person who was being bullied. These regrets are not about opportunity or stability, they are about character. They reveal that, despite our capacity for selfishness, we are wired with a deep-seated need to see ourselves as good, decent people. Moral regrets are the agonizing pain of failing our own internal standards of right and wrong. They are, as the novelist Dostoevsky explored throughout his work, the heavy price of a guilty conscience. And finally, the fourth and most poignant category, connection regrets. These are the regrets that arise from relationships that have drifted apart, fractured, or were neglected. If only I had reached out to my friend. If only I had said I'm sorry. If only I had spent more time with my parents before they were gone. If our regrets are a photograph of our values, then connection regrets are the centerpiece. They reveal our most fundamental human need, the need to love and be loved. They teach us the stark lesson that in the final accounting of our lives, it is the quality of our relationships that matters most. When you look at these 4 categories, you realize that regret is not random. It is a finely tuned navigation system. It is the pain that orients us toward the life we truly want to live, one that is stable, adventurous, moral, and filled with love. The pain is not a punishment. The pain is the guide. Understanding the function of regret is the first step. But how do we actively transform its leaden weight into psychological gold? How do we move from the paralyzing state of rumination to the productive state of wisdom? The process is an act of emotional and intellectual alchemy, and it begins with a surprising ingredient: self-compassion. This may seem counterintuitive. Our instinct when we regret something is to be harsh with ourselves. We believe self-criticism is the path to improvement. But the research of Dr. Kristin Neff and others shows the opposite is true. Harsh self-criticism triggers our threat defense system. It floods us with cortisol and adrenaline, making us defensive, avoidant, and closed off. We either shut down or lash out. We cannot learn when we are in a state of self-attack. Self-compassion, on the other hand, creates a state of psychological safety. It involves 3 core components: treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend, recognizing that failure and imperfection are part of the shared human experience, not a personal failing, and holding your painful thoughts in mindful awareness without over-identifying with them. When you approach your regret with self-compassion, you are not letting yourself off the hook. You are creating the optimal neurobiological conditions for learning to occur. You are saying to yourself, yes, I made a mistake. It is painful, but making mistakes is human, and I am worthy of learning from this experience instead of just suffering from it. With this foundation of self-compassion, we can then engage in a structured, 4-step process to alkalize our regret. Step 1. Disclose and dissect. Regret thrives in the darkness of isolation. The first step is to externalize it. This can be done by writing about it in a journal or, even more powerfully, by sharing it with a trusted friend or family member. The act of disclosure does 2 things. First, it robs the regret of its shame-fueled power. When we hear someone respond not with judgment but with empathy, the emotional charge begins to dissipate. Second, it forces us to articulate the experience, which begins the process of organizing the chaotic emotions into a coherent narrative. Once disclosed, we dissect it. We must look at the event with the dispassionate curiosity of a detective. What, specifically, was the mistake? What were the circumstances? What was my thought process at the time? The goal here is to move from a general feeling of final failure to a specific analysis. In that situation, under pressure, I prioritized short-term comfort over a long-term value. Step 2. Extract the lesson. This is the most crucial cognitive step. Having analyzed the what, you must now deliberately extract the why and the how. Ask yourself one critical question. What is the single most important lesson this experience is trying to teach me? The lesson should be clear, concise, and forward-looking. A bad lesson is, I'm terrible at public speaking. It's a dead-end judgment. A good lesson is, I need to practice my presentations at least 3 times before I get on stage to feel confident. Notice the difference. The good lesson is specific, actionable, and provides a clear path for future behavior. Write this lesson down. Make it tangible. This act transforms the memory from a source of pain into a source of explicit instruction. Step 3. Design the future with gift in the planning. A lesson is useless if it remains an abstract idea. The next step is to embed it into your future behavior using a proven psychological tool called an implementation intention, or gift-then planning. This concept, researched extensively by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer, involves creating a preloaded plan of action for a future scenario. Instead of a vague goal like I'll be more assertive, you create a specific script. If my boss asks me to stay late on a Friday again, then I will say, I can add this to my list for Monday morning, but I have a commitment this evening. Instead of I'll keep in touch with my friends more, you create a script. If it is the first Sunday of the month, then I will call my friend who lives far away. This if-then plan effectively outsources your willpower to the environment. You have already made the decision. When the cue arrives, the action fires automatically. You are using your past regret to write the code for your future self. Step 4. Reframe the self. The final step is to integrate this entire experience into your life story in a new way. You can't delete the chapter where you made the mistake, but you can change how that chapter is titled and what it means in the broader narrative. Instead of seeing the regret as a permanent stain on your character, you can reframe it as a turning point. It was the painful event that was necessary to teach you an invaluable lesson. It was the moment you learned the importance of honesty, the value of boldness, or the necessity of connection. This is the essence of the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The philosophy behind it is that the piece is more beautiful and more valuable because it has been broken. The cracks are not something to be hidden, they are a celebrated part of the object's history. Your regrets are your kintsugi cracks. They are the proof that you have lived, that you have been tested, and that you have had the courage to repair yourself. They do not attract from your story. They enrich it with the golden seams of wisdom. To live a life without regret is an impossible and even undesirable goal. It would mean a life lived so cautiously, so timidly, that you never took a risk, never loved deeply, and never dared to fail. It would be a life devoid of the very experiences that forge character and create wisdom. The wisdom of regret is not found in its absence, but in our relationship to it. It is in the courage to face our past failures without flinching. It is in the compassion to forgive the person we once were, who didn't know what we know now. And it is in the intelligence to dissect our mistakes and use them as the raw material to build a better future. Regret is a temporal emotion. It is born in the past, lives in the present, and points directly to the future. It is a conversation between your past self and your future self. Your only job is to be a good translator, to listen to the pain, understand its message, and act on its advice. The scars of our past are not a sign of our brokenness. They are the marks of our resilience. They are the evidence that we were wounded and we had the strength to heal. A life without regret is a blank page. A life where regret has been transformed into wisdom is a masterpiece.